Hello everyone, Kent Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org. Hello everybody, Kent Bressler, and let's do some podcasting. This morning we're going to have a kidney anniversary discussion with a new friend of mine, Cecilia Santana from New York. So as soon as we're done with the prayer, we're going to get started, because although I can see her and you can't, this should be something very delightful for you, because it's all about Cecilia this morning. All right, dearest Lord, look upon me with eyes of mercy, and may your healing hand rest upon me. May your life-giving powers flow into every cell of my body and into the depths of my soul, cleansing, purifying, restoring me to wholeness and strength for service in your kingdom. Amen. Cecilia.
Kent.
Welcome. I've been looking forward to this. You know, Aaron Kale at AAKP and Diane Kleins, they've been very, very helpful in this process. We thought it would be really nice to have kidney anniversaries. I know they call it kidneyversaries or all of that, but for some reason, when I get to my kidney date, it's very meaningful to me. So we thought, let's make sure that we get the story out with all the people that are involved with AAKP so that they can tell their kidney story. And we thought we'd do it on anniversaries. And I understand that today is your anniversary, Kidney Transplant Anniversary. Is that correct?
That's correct. 7 years ago today.
7?
Yes.
That's great.
Lucky
Tell us a little
7.
bit about what you're going to do today. What do you do to celebrate?
You know, every year it's pretty much spending time with my 2 eldest siblings. I come from a small nuclear family, so right now it's just me and my 2 sisters. that's tag. That's it. And so we spend time together, have a meal, you know, just to commemorate and show how thankful we all are, because, as you know, this kidney journey is very trying for everyone involved, not just the individual. I mean, obviously, as a kidney patient, I went through all kinds of feelings. Oh my goodness, what is this? What is dialysis? What is end-stage renal disease? What are you talking about? What does this mean for me? And then going through the different modalities of dialysis, and your family being at your side and watching you go through what you're going through. And you know, what can I do to help her? How can I help her? I'll be there. I'll go with her to the dialysis unit, check on her. Oh, you know, if something on my face looks different, some sort of discoloration, because you go through that with the different types of dialysis, you can just tell, right? Fluid retention, and or you'll look sallow, or when you're on PD, your skin tone changes somewhat. I know I gained a little weight. Well, quite a bit of weight when I was on peritoneal dialysis, for example. But again, with the actual day, it's just a day of reflection for me, a day of thanks, and spending time with my siblings, and just remembering everything that I've been through, and why I serve as a kidney advocate. Anything that I can possibly do to reach out to people, it refuels me, you know, in my mission.
Who gave you your kidney? I don't know if
My
you named it or whatever. Who's your
I
donor?
I did not name my kidney. My kidney,
Me neither.
yeah, I don't know. I learned about this years later,
Yeah.
because my kidney came from someone who had a name, and he's no longer here,
Ah,
and you know, it just was my way of saying, okay, I've been giving a life-saving gift, and I want to honor this life-saving gift as best as I can. So yeah, I received it. It was a cadaver kidney, and it happened 9 years into my being on dialysis.
so you're on dialysis for 9 years.
Correct. I actually
Now,
started out on peritoneal dialysis and then went on to hemodialysis.
so now that's a good starting point. Let me just take you a step back when you were diagnosed, okay? And did they give you a firm diagnosis of what caused your kidney disease? Do you know that?
You got a minute? It's an interesting.
Did they? I
It's an
got all day.
interesting story. Okay, I'll try to be as succinct as possible. Basically, in 1999, I started out by sitting down for brunch with my eldest sibling, who looked at my face and asked me what was wrong with the puffiness around my eyes that she noticed.
Yep.
What are you talking about? Um, she said, you should have that checked out. So I went to my primary care doctor at that time, explained the situation, and then and only then did she check my ankles for any edema. I was never told anything about protein in the urine, anything that came up in my blood work, anything of the kind. I wasn't told, well, we should keep an eye on you for this or that. My sister saved my life.
Did did the doctor tell you you have protein in your urine?
No, not at all.
Didn't tell you at all. And
Not at
and
all.
and and you're sure you did have it in your urine at the time?
I didn't know what I had. All I know is that I had this
Swelling.
odd swelling
Okay.
that was going on around
Yeah.
my eye that my
Yeah.
sister
Yeah.
noticed. She's been like a pseudo mom to me because my mom passed away when I was very young.
Yes. Of course. What's
And
her name? What's her name?
my sister,
Yeah.
Delia.
Delia. Okay,
Delia.
there you go.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah, yeah.
name. That's a
Thank
beautiful
you.
name.
Yeah, Delia,
You can
Virginia,
you're
and
happy to call her
Cecilia.
Delia.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So
Yeah,
Delia,
really. Yeah.
Virginia, and Cecilia. Mom had,
Sure. Absolutely.
something going
Absolutely.
on there. Um, but basically, Delia looked at me and said, "What's going on?" And I went to the doctor, and she said, "You need to see a nephrologist."
Ah, good.
So she did do that, but I found it very interesting why, in all the time that I was seeing that primary care doctor, and not that I had her for a very long time, but
Right.
nothing, no discussion, nothing came up. So I was quite surprised. And I ended up going to a nephrologist in a private office. And in my opinion, no real explanation of what kidney disease meant. Could I halt the progression? I was told, get yourself a scale to weigh your food, to weigh your protein, any meats or
Oh,
anything like that. And that's fine. And I understand, you have to limit certain foods and all, and that was a good start. But in my mind, I said, I've done all that all the time. I'm not one
yeah.
to, you know, have a lot of food or anything like that. I enjoy my food, and I've learned to appreciate what little, I mean, sure, you indulge and that's great.
Yeah,
But
sure. Yeah.
but it wasn't explained. It really wasn't clearly explained to me. Why, who, what, where, what does this mean? What stage? I have no idea what stage I was in.
Right.
With that nephrologist or the one that I moved on to, because I did not feel comfortable with this first nephrologist. Went on to a
Okay.
second one who said, oh, no problem. Take this medication. You can drink wine. Again, I didn't know that there were different stages of CKD. I really didn't have a name other than kidney disease. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that acronym. I had no idea. It was only 5 years later when I saw who then became my primary care doctor, who was also an internist, and he caught it right away. Right
Yeah.
away.
Yep.
I didn't.
Yep.
There was no pain. There was no discomfort. There was no puffiness in
No.
my face any longer. He just
No.
looked at what I had submitted and realized that something was wrong, and he sent me right over to the Rogosin Institute.
Okay. So
there-
that was the point. You remember we kind of preempted this conversation with a nice long talk, which I really appreciated. And it's just the mere fact that most people that have kidney disease and learn about it had the same experience you just talked about. A very limited or lack thereof information about kidney disease early on. And I don't want to get off on that bunny trail, but I do thank you for bringing that up, because that's wherein lies the rub. That's the problem in my mind, that we've got to put a stop to that. You have protein in your urine and you've got your blood pressure's out of bounds, and you go to a nephrologist, I would think they would want to tell you everything they know about your labs and about your condition before you go out, before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that your opinion?
Well,
looking back,
looking back now, I just, and I'm still working with this. I'm trying to understand from the primary care physician's office, what is it that's being looked at? Why isn't this coming up more often? I serve as a wellness ambassador for the Rogosin Institute. That was my way of giving back to this wonderful research medical institute that saved my life and led me down the path of helping me have a better quality of life by introducing me to peritoneal dialysis and answering all the questions that I had about dialysis. And although I wasn't one to really understand the inner workings, I knew that if there was one thing I could handle, it was my diet. What could I limit? Because again, diet is such a bad word for people, but it's about limiting the certain foods. If you know that you have an issue with potassium in your particular case, because as time has gone on, I realize how individualized kidney disease is for everyone. Maybe I can have a banana today, but the person next to me really ought not to.
Can't. Yeah, absolutely. It is totally individualized.
You're right. It really is mind-blowing, because we're not just like, oh, okay, you're dealing with this, and so you should not be eating that, the way that one dialysis technician, shook her finger at me and said, you're not supposed to be eating that. And I was like,
shame on you.
Time out. Look at my labs, look at my blood work, look at, and then determine. I totally understand that with regard to that particular tech, she was looking out for me. Consider the source. She was looking out for me.
Big heart.
So good for her. But I think there's a different approach It's
Right.
like, you're eating that. Should you be eating that? Have you spoken with your dietitian, or speak to the dietitian and say, listen, I see this person coming into the unit and she's often eating bananas and just thought you ought to know. I don't know, whatever the protocols are there. Um,
Yeah.
but you do become close with people when you're in that kind of an atmosphere, and even with when I started out with PD, it was a very comfortable situation in going in and having discussions with the nurse, with my nephrologist, in better understanding how I could handle my dialysis. And again, for me, it wasn't so much knowing about or concentrating on my blood pressure or concentrating on other things or the labs, but how am I doing with my phosphorus and my potassium? What can I do for myself to keep myself in the best in the best way so that I can look forward and look towards transplantation?
How long was it before you realized you could, quote, have a transplant? At what point in your illness did you realize transplant was an option?
I knew I was informed from the very start when I went to Rogosin. I knew that that was
Okay.
a
And
possibility. But in my particular case, I had to hold off because several weeks after learning that, or rather, several weeks after being prepared for PD, I learned that I was stage one, I had stage one breast cancer. So for
okay.
me, 2004 was a banner year.
Ooh, you can call it a banner year or a bummer year, one of the two.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
That's a
So,
significant point. That Cecilia, that's a significant point. Not everybody can go to transplant. Dialysis is not a bad thing. That's not what we're advocating here.
right.
But you were given options then, and you couldn't take the option of transplant. Very
Yeah.
significant. Very significant.
And what I
Okay.
what I what I greatly appreciated was knowing about the constant communication between my nephrologist and my oncologist.
Mm-hmm.
I was reassured of that each time I spoke with them. How they had my best interest at heart. This is what the plan of action was. This was how we were going to proceed. And so I started, obviously, with the oncologist doing what I needed to do. I was very fortunate where I did not have to, I only did radiation. I did not do chemotherapy.
Oh, okay.
Again, I found out on my own. I found out on my own that something was awry and went to get that checked out. And because it's part of my family history, I knew that I had to be vigilant. So I
Yeah.
think I've pretty much learned to be vigilant about certain things, just knowing my history already, knowing that this is something that I
Sure.
had to look out for. And so I started, unlike a number of other women, I started my examinations at the age of 35 versus 40 or older. And I
Yeah.
learned about this at the age of 38.
Yeah.
So
If you'd have waited, might have been too late then. So
who
who
knows?
knows? Who
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 knows? I
knows?
don't want to know.
No,
Right?
absolutely
Yeah, right,
not. Yeah.
exactly. But I was
The
well
the
taken care of.
yeah, the interesting thing here is that people think, well, you just got kidney disease. I mean, so what? And everything else comes along. Life continues with kidney disease. You have it, and it's chronic, and no matter what you do or how it goes, things are going to be different. You're going to have bumps. You had a big bump, okay? That was a big bump for you. But see, that this whole idea that you can get a transplant anytime you want to doesn't prevail. There is a bridge in there sometimes, but in general, you as a patient need that option. You need to know right off the bat what
Yes,
your options are. And
right.
so like the old saying, we don't get prepared for dialysis, we get prepared for transplant. If there's a bump there that stops that, we do the bridge. We do what you need to have done so that you can be healthy enough to get transplant. right?
Right.
So
Right.
you're
And
a really good example.
and
Go ahead.
two things. Number one, I have to say that the first oncologist I met with was also, I was very fortunate for this individual to give me options. When I shared this with a friend, she was appalled because I was told, well, these are your options. And as a medical professional, I greatly appreciated what she said, because she said,
Oh, absolutely.
you can proceed with, the therapy that's needed as a breast cancer patient. You can, go ahead with this. You can go to doing considering mastectomy, and the third was, or you can do nothing. That
Yeah,
obviously that's just her outlining what I'm able to do. However,
sure.
my friend was appalled that that was even brought up. She's a dear friend. I've
Well,
known her since
yeah,
childhood. So it's like, how dare she say this? I said, hold on. I would rather that she clearly tell me everything that was available to me. The oncologist also explained that for certain people, sometimes at a certain age, they feel, I'm not going to fight this. I'm 80 years old. I'm 90 years old. I've had a good life. I am not going
sure.
to put my life through that kind of rigorous chemotherapy or anything like that. She just did it as part of, this is the way she rolls. This is the way
Yeah,
she
well,
conducts herself with her patients. And I absolutely respected that.
yeah, absolutely. And you know through your advocacy that it's not about who makes the decision, because it's up to you. If you don't have the options, you can't make an informed decision.
Right.
Informed decisions means educated decision, but you are the one that gets that opportunity. It's not going in and saying, well, doc says, well, I think we need to go to chemo right away. Here's your options in chemo. No, there are, just like kidney disease. You can
Mm-hmm.
go from transplant, you can go to dialysis, or you can die. I mean, pretty much simply what, and people do. People stop. They don't go on with any other therapy for
Right.
whatever reason.
Right.
But I mean, but that's their choice.
And
It's all about patient choice. And I
I
know.
bring up I bring up that topic because actually, and I know that it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years to obtain a transplant. However, upon learning, before going on to the oncologist and learning what I did, what the outcome was, I was not, I wasn't quite ready for transplantation,
Mm-hmm,
believe it or not. I know there
mm-hmm,
are some patients that may feel that way for a variety of reasons, but I couldn't wrap my head around transplantation. Yes, I absolutely went on
mm-hmm.
the list, but if I had had the opportunity to get a transplant right away, had I, and again, this, we're talking 2004, so the ability to reach out to folks and say, hey, beyond those that and say, hey, I need a kidney, the way it's so common nowadays with social media and other forms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people have put on T-shirts standing in the middle of Times Square, uh,
Yeah,
I need a kidney,
yeah,
and providing their, that
yeah.
wasn't very common 16 years ago. So I couldn't wrap my head around it. So it was almost like, okay, I took this as it was meant to be, as strange as that may sound. I just wasn't ready
No, it's not strange at all.
for
No.
transplantation. And I didn't really consider at that time, nor I don't think I was aware about the wait time. I only knew that how important it was to be listed so that when the time came, that I could do this.
Yeah, that was listed for a deceased donor. And that, some nice education early on maybe would have helped you, would have. And we can't go back. But, I don't like to go back in history,
Right.
but nowadays what we do, we talk about like my transplant, my nephrologist said to me, do you have any brothers? Do you have any sisters? Do you have any cousins? He started right away out of the box with transplant. That makes a difference.
Yes.
It makes a tremendous difference.
Right.
That was back in 1987.
Wow.
So, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and you are exactly correct. It's different strokes for different folks, and you're not in a person's place at the time. If you are and you can make suggestions, great. It's better to do it, but it's always up to the patient. You made the right decision for you, and that's what it's all about. You just didn't go down
And that's what
blindly.
I do.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Perfect.
I
Great
as an
point.
advocate, I always have to thank you. No, as an advocate, I have to look within and say, how would I want someone to speak to me? So
Absolutely.
there's this thing of mindfulness nowadays, right? And I try to be as mindful as possible when I'm speaking to someone, because if they don't feel comfortable with the idea of the other modalities, um, I can share my experiences and tell them, well, this is what I went through.
Exactly.
Um,
You can give your story.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as a
Yeah.
PD patient for 7 years, I can tell them how much easier the process was for me. The fact that I was able to travel from time to time, um, and I just felt empowered. I felt empowered that I could go and I could still do my dialysis. First, I started with uh, doing 4 exchanges a day, and I was doing that while traveling to and fro from work, an hour and a half to my job, and an hour and a half coming back, and I still was
Wow.
able to perform it 4 times a day for that half hour. I would do
Yeah.
it in the morning. I would go in and do it at my office. I was able to utilize an office that wasn't being utilized by anyone, and either have my lunch there or continue doing work. And again, just making sure to be very aseptic. Wearing a mask, that's so passe for us as kidney dialysis patients, etc., especially at home. Being aseptic, not having the fan on, not having the air conditioner on. Don't worry about telephones going off, because you're losing your concentration and you're going to get yourself into trouble. So everything is secondary. What's primary is, what am I doing, first, second, third. And it was great. But as you say, this journey is all about bumps in the roads. It's not going to be a
That's right.
perfect thing. And there just came
So,
a point where I did not take care of myself. And I was very upset because I felt that I failed myself. I was doing so
yeah.
well. 7 years on peritoneal dialysis, and I allowed myself to um, get overworked, not take good enough care of myself, not rest, starting to skip some treatments here and there. I got sick and I had to go to hemodialysis.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Now say that again. Say that again about it wasn't your fault.
I should have, could have,
Whose
didn't.
fault was it, did you say?
It was my fault. It was my
We
fault.
always, yeah,
It was my fault.
exactly. But it's not a
I
fault so much as
Yeah, I just, we have to remain diligent. And even when we do,
exactly.
even when we do, things happen. And so the kidney journey for me means anything can happen. It's how we bounce back. It's how we remain empowered. It's how we connect with people. I'm so happy that there are so many varieties of ways that people can connect with one another, be it support groups or online. I myself am affiliated with a group called the New York State CKD Champions. And they brought me on as an associate director, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this because we've gone on from just having, you know, our private Facebook group to now having a CKD resources and information page, bringing in others to get information, especially in this time that we're living in the time of COVID. Providing, you know, the links to the various webinars that were going on from a variety of the organizations, from AAKP to NKF to, you know, you name it. Anything that was out there that was going to help better inform people and allowing them to hear these specialists and others like them talking about their experiences. It's like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one, because it feels very lonely. I didn't reach out to anyone for all those years. It's only after becoming a transplant recipient that I realized how many options there were out there to listen to, and podcasts. I mean, all you have to do is go on your phone or any other device and look up kidney, and bam. I didn't know to do that 16 years ago, 10 years ago. It's been a slow process. And I'm glad that these kinds of forums exist, these
Absolutely.
You know, where you can reach out to people and form communities and say, you're not alone. And so, you know, working with New York State CKD Champions, we've been able to announce this virtual thriving, not just surviving cultural arts showcase, and announce it and let people know that this is going on. This was going to be the 4th year we were going to do it. And then the pandemic happened. And so this changed everything. And it's like, okay, so what can we do for the people that know who we are, that follow us? And we said, okay, we're going to do this virtually. Send in your artwork, send in your videos of you dancing, send in a video of anything that you're doing that's helping you, rise above all this. We have someone who rides his bike, and he travels all over the place, and he's a kidney warrior's warrior, because here's this man, you know, just going for it. And it's like, I think that many people think, well, I'm on dialysis, I can't do anything. I can't go out and exercise, I can't dance, I can't do the things that I do, all my time is taken up. But I think what matters most is what you do with the time that you have. I mean, that's what we think about life in general anyway. So now we have to rejig all of that and think, okay, well, now I'm either going in, you know, 3 times a week into dialysis, or I'm having to stop 4 times a day, or I'm having to do my dialysis overnight, or, you know, what are we going to do in those spaces in between? And so it's beautiful to see the artwork that's coming in, that people are saying, this is my contribution to what I'm going through. And it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous, you know.
Yeah.
So we've gotten some nice pieces of artwork, and I'm hoping that more and more people will participate, you know, so that they can just.
How do people get a hold of that? How do people get into that? If they live in Illinois or California, how do they get into that particular program that you have?
All they have to do.
Go ahead and spout it.
All they have to do is go on Facebook. You can look for @CKD Champions Info, and
say that again.
CKD.
Say that again.
@CKD Champions Info. And you'll see the pop-up page. We've put up a video of one of our officers of New York State CKD Champions talking about hey, this is what we've done. We've done this
Yeah,
cultural arts showcase, but now we've had to go virtual. And a lot of people have seen it, and they're slowly sending in their artwork to our email, because this is a better way of just getting everything in and putting it up.
sure.
And it's very simple.
Absolutely.
New at NYSCKD Champions at gmail.com, and just send in the artwork. It doesn't matter whether you're a patient, whether you're a family member of a patient, or a provider.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's very, very inclusive, very it's a fun thing, and I can't wait to see what else people have to show, because even though it's New York State CKD Champions, we have people from all over, even from Dubai.
Sure. Sure. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's what I'm so happy that you found a niche, because a lot of people don't. There were a couple of years, 3, 5 years in there when I was raising a family, trying to support a family. And I didn't do a lot of this stuff. But now that over the years, as I've had more time to do it, it's, it's almost like a mission, a personal mission. And
Absolutely.
that's what's good. And it's good for people who don't know what's going on to figure it out. It's education. I call it kind of like in education, slowly but surely. If you just catch one person, great. If you catch 100, even better. That's whatever.
And that's the premise of
Absolutely.
what
That's
we've
why
done.
you do what you do.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
patient-led organization. It's not a nonprofit. It's just
Right.
something that's very dear to those of
Mhm.
us who are part of it. And the premise is always about education, encouragement, and empowerment,
Right.
no
Well,
matter
this,
where you're at in the universe of kidney disease and this kidney journey, because it truly is, the highs and lows
yeah,
of going through the hiccups, as I myself went through, and I had to again get accustomed to, okay, well, I'm not going to be doing this type of modality, but I'm still going to make it work, and I'm still going to do what I know best. And if my doctors and nurses are telling me, well, you need to do something different because your potassium levels or anything, then that was what I could control, and I took it from there. And I think that we as patients also have to remain diligent about keeping in touch with our transplant coordinators. That is something that I did not do. Everyone is going through their own personal highs and lows, and their journeys, whether it's kidney dialysis or cancer or anything. My coordinator at the time was going through her own cancer uh, uh, journey, and I've now learned that she has passed on. I think there came a point where there was a disconnect. I didn't keep up with her. I was going through whatever I was going through, and who knows, maybe I could have gotten my transplant, or an opportunity for transplantation perhaps a year or two sooner. Just saying, I don't feel bad about that. It is what it is.
no,
I had
no,
to
and you
go
should.
through what I went through. It was meant to be for me to go through in-center
Yep.
dialysis, so that when I go to visit someone at a dialysis center, I can proudly say that I know I know what
Yeah.
they've been through,
Yeah.
because I have
Absolutely.
an arm with this snake going up up it, that
Sure.
shows
Sure.
that I
Absolutely.
was a dialysis patient. And I find that is a way of connecting, because this way that
Yes.
they cannot say that I don't know what they're talking. I have no idea what they've been through. I most certainly do.
Right.
Maybe not for as long, but enough to know what it's felt like to be in that chair.
Well,
And
I
so,
think you're right. I think you're totally right. And matter of fact, my point is, at what point do you address it? If you can't do it preemptively, which I advocate for, at least what point do you what point do you get a chance to say, hey, I want to pursue transplant? You know, it takes someone like you who's been through that 6 or 7 years. Most people don't get that far along in dialysis and end up being transplanted.
mm,
And I think that's a good takeaway for people who happen to listen to this podcast.
mhm,
There's always an opportunity to be transplanted, but
yes,
it's up to you to make that choice. Again, right?
yes,
Please don't
yes,
expect the doctor to say, hey, it's time for you to do that. That's when you question. Do you feel the same way? That
right.
it's important for you to start thinking about it?
No, it's important for, again, diligence is,
Exactly.
is what it's all about. Like I said, I've had my hiccups. I
Yep.
didn't follow up soon enough, but I got back to doing
Yeah.
what I had to do, and it came at the right time, at the right
Yep.
place. And quite honestly, I was in a frame of mind where now I was ready.
Absolutely.
And can I
Absolutely.
just
That's the
say,
takeaway.
that by the end of 2012, upon getting ready to enter into the new year, 2013, I said, okay, let's call it. I said, all right, I feel that 2013, I feel that 2013 is my year. And I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
December 2013. And I got a call 3 months prior. I don't know what that means. I have no idea. I just said, I'm ready. I'm ready. I put it out
Yeah.
to the universe and I was ready. Of course, it doesn't always happen that way. It's
Nope.
just that
Nope.
it wasn't a hope. It wasn't anything, a wish. It was just like, let's see what happens. If it didn't happen in at the end of 2013, I I believe I would have been okay with that.
Sure. You'd have made that adjustment to the bump.
Exactly, because perfect word. It's all about constant adjustments.
Yeah.
Adjustments in
Your body
yeah.
does it, your mind does it, and your life does it. Yeah.
And
You're
I
right.
think that part of what happens is that many of us become saddened and angry with
Angry. Yeah.
angry with what with
Angry.
what we've
Yeah.
learned, especially for those of us that don't learn about our kidney disease till
Mhm.
some of us crash in the hospital.
Yeah.
Which is, you know I have to tell you, Kent, I consider myself extremely fortunate compared to many other patients that I've spoken with who've told me about their stories, who've told
Yeah.
me about, the edema, the extreme edema in their legs, and going to a doctor who just didn't know what else to do for them except to perhaps give them water pills.
Yeah. Well, we're a
So,
pill society. Yeah.
I think that goes back to what I was telling you initially about the curiosity is in my mind, and I just know that somehow, some way, I believe that there will be a time where I'll be able to sit with one or more primary care doctors to better understand what is it that's missing for someone to look at those labs and address that issue with a patient,
I
because
don't.
I myself didn't. I
No.
Again, no pain, no. I
No.
lost weight. I lost weight, and it was the thinnest I ever was. And I was like, "Oh, this is great. I'm 38 years old. I'm 110 pounds, and
Right.
this
It's
is
a
fantastic.
glamour thing.
This is the least I've ever weighed. I haven't weighed this much since I was a child, um,
Yeah.
or whatever." And there was no indication. I had no idea what
Nope.
was going on with me. I wasn't
Nope.
having headaches, nothing. So,
Well, I think there's a tremendous amount of times that the doctors, they feel inadequate about, well, how do you address it. Some nephrology communities won't see a patient till they're stage 3 already. some 4. I mean, we can't lay it on the docs. We can't lay it on the nephrologist. We got to lay it on how people get educated into this. And I go back to the fact that if I look at it, had I not been more as aggressive as I was early on, I don't know where I'd be today. But I
Right.
do know that having a nephrologist who gave me all the options right after my biopsy cleared the way for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always get that.
Correct.
All right. You
Correct.
don't always get that. You get the young doc or the doctor, the general practitioner who just says, well, let's just watch it.
Right.
Somebody says, well, when let's just watch it. I got to say, gee whiz, let's find a different doctor because
Yes.
watching is not what you want to do with kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's certain stages that and you do need to watch it, but you need to know what it is right up front.
Mm-hmm.
Right up front from day one. You shouldn't have any protein in your urine, right?
Right. That's why I question.
Period.
It's like, what
Yeah.
okay, so what's
Yeah.
you're going into the doctor, you're being asked for blood work, you're being asked for urine, they're analyzing all of this. What is it? When is it that someone is going to say something? Something else I'd like to add, when it comes to the diseases that we're dealing with in this country, let alone the world, even though there's talk about kidney disease, I think it's more insular. It's I come from a PR and marketing background, so what I'm going to say is going to sound strange, but it's a terminology that I've heard over the years. And basically, for me, kidney disease is not as quote unquote sexy as other diseases.
Yeah.
I know it's a strange term. It's just,
No.
it hasn't, for whatever reason, it just hasn't reached that level of, for the masses to understand, for all of us to understand how important this is. When I was growing up, you would hear about people in your neighborhoods, oh, yes, Mrs. Rivera, oh, she has dialysis. Well, she has, she goes to dialysis. Well, what does that mean? You only knew that she was going over to a facility to be cared for a certain amount of times during the week, and that was it. She was not unwell. She didn't walk as quickly as she once did. And you just would see someone deteriorate.
Yeah.
And that's certainly not the case now, because so many of us have become empowered and learned, hey, wait a minute, these questions aren't being risen. But no one knows except us or our loved ones what Kidney Awareness Month is, honestly.
And that's right. That's right.
Breast cancer awareness comes along, breast cancer awareness, heart health, diabetes, because these are important. But now I posed the question to a couple of folks where I'm like, okay, as a diabetic person, has your doctor talked about that could lead to kidney issues,
Sure.
kidney disease? And I have to say that I've gotten a yes from these people. So I'm like, oh, okay, progress.
Yeah.
For me, that's progress. Again, it's just a curiosity for me in terms of how can we get to that point where someone who is not an internist can say to the patient, I think this is something that you need to be checked on, even if they may not necessarily know to send a patient to a nephrologist. What about an endocrinologist? Let's start somewhere.
Yeah.
What's wrong with this person? Where can I send them to? And I just think that there still has to be more done in getting the word out, even though those of us that are in the know are learning and are empowered and encouraged that there are steps being taken to make a difference, such as the Advancing American Kidney Health Initiative. But there's still a lot to be done to get the word out to folks that, we're being It's too much. There are too many people. The numbers just keep on going up and up and up. 32 million people across, 38 million people across the United States, dealing with it, who may have kidney disease and haven't an idea. That's a sad state of affairs.
Yep, it is.
So.
Okay, as with all my podcasts, I have a hard time stopping. I could go on into the afternoon or to the evening. And at some point in time, I've got to draw attention to the fact that when you have somebody like Miss Santana working for kidney disease, you got a good friend. And I'd like to have you come back on sometime when we work our way through. And I'd like to talk about mentoring. I know you mentor, okay? That's too big a topic right now. So we're going to come back after you, and we're going to talk about mentoring, because I know it's a big part of your life, okay?
My pleasure, Ken.
Do it? Okay. Listen, I appreciate you a lot. I've got a dear friend now, and unfortunately, you'll have to live with that fact. Once you got me as a friend, I'm hard to get rid of. Anyway, when you think about how kidneys work, my group at kidneysolutions.org, if you'll just go to that site, kidneysolutions.org, and you'll find out what we do at Kidney Solutions to help in the kidney space. And I want to invite everybody out there right now, if they've listened to this podcast, please make a comment. I don't care if it's a negative, a positive, or both, or what. If you want to write a page, if you just want to say pooey, if you want to say thank, just go in and comment that you listened to Cecilia today. And I'd sing happy anniversary to you, or happy birthday on your seventh year.
Mm-hmm.
But I would rather do that when you reach 20 years or 25 or 30 or whatever it is, because that's the blessing I hope.
Yes.
Wait, that's right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So for all who've listened, I appreciate you. And for everybody out there, thanks for listening, and keep breathing.